When we talk about the big three in gaming, I always talk about Gears of War, Call of Duty, and StarCraft. And those are my big three, guys. Everyone out there has their big three as far as their favorite three franchises in the entire gaming world. And StarCraft, guys, is obviously, just one of those games that is, in my opinion, it takes some of the most skill in all of gaming to really master. And so I have been clamoring and hoping for a continuation of this franchise moving forward, and there's been more rumblings. There's been us as a community that we've been really trying to talk this thing into existence and get StarCraft 3 made, because I think, guys, that when you look at the totality of the gaming landscape, it's time for the real-time strategy genre to kind of become something, kind of come back to the forefront in a major way. And I think a StarCraft 3 could absolutely do that, because StarCraft 2 did so many things for not only gaming but also eSports. And so I think it's really important that this is a title that ends up happening sooner rather than later. I think, coming up on the 10-year anniversary, or, actually really more so than 10 years at this point, of StarCraft 2, celebrating StarCraft 2 in such a major way, and just StarCraft as an entire franchise. It seems like every 10 years is when you can kind of expect another game in the StarCraft universe. And obviously the other two franchises I love, that being Call of Duty and Gears of War, we've gotten a ton of continuations of those franchises ever since StarCraft 2 came out. So I've been really hoping that we get a StarCraft 3, or at least some news on it at some point in the foreseeable future. But in this segment of the show, guys, I want to talk about the top 5 things that we want in StarCraft 3. And when I say we, I'm talking mainly about myself here, but I know some of you are going to share the same opinions. And if you don't, let me know what your top 5 things are in the comment section down below. So coming in at number 1, guys, I would like one of two things to happen with the overall story of StarCraft 3. That be, I would like it to either be a brand new story altogether, or they go ahead and they just finish out the trilogy and kind of make it a trilogy of story modes within, of course, the first few games here. I'd like them to do one of those things. I would almost prefer them going ahead and just doing a completely new story altogether. I feel like Kerrigan and John Raynor's, their story is kind of concluded somewhat. They maybe could go one more game, but I think it might be smart just to go on to, some other planets. I feel like this universe has so much to explore still, and that's why I wouldn't mind just seeing a completely new story altogether that's in, of course, the same universe, and maybe there's things that are familiar to us, whether that be characters, whatever the case might be. But I feel that we can all agree that one thing that StarCraft isn't their strong point is not the campaign. Sometimes the dialogue is kind of cheesy, and some of the characters, are somewhat, kind of goofy at times. I think that maybe going a different direction with the story altogether in StarCraft 3 would be a good idea. But I would be up to either round out the trilogy that they've started and really close, open up some new doors, maybe, showing Raynor and some of these characters, passing the torch on to new characters for the next generation of the StarCraft games, or you just completely go in a new direction altogether. But with that being said, that's kind of my number 1 thing. My number 2 thing, guys, is overall, I think one of the best things about StarCraft is the diversity between the races that are here. You got the Protoss, the Zerg, and the Terran. The gods, the humans, and the alien races is kind of how I put it down, put it in perspective. But what I think would be really great for StarCraft 3 would be adding a new race. And we've talked about this on the YouTube channel, guys. You guys can check out all of my StarCraft 3 content here on the YouTube channel. We've talked about a hybrid race would be something I would absolutely love. Whether that means the Zerg is kind of turned into a hybrid race, or you make the hybrid race a completely new race altogether. So instead of having 3 races, you would have 4, making it, diversify the series somewhat. I think it could add some very interesting elements to it. But nonetheless, it would be interesting to see maybe the Zerg or even the Protoss or Terran kind of turn into what becomes, the hybrid race. It would make most sense to me with the Xur because of with Kerrigan and, what happens at the end of, the series, or I should say of StarCraft 2 with Kerrigan. It'd be interesting to see like they transform somewhat into the hybrid race. But nonetheless, I think even adding a new race altogether would be a really good idea. Coming in at number 3, guys, I believe that one thing that really separates StarCraft from all the other esports titles out there is that StarCraft has become like the tennis of esports. When I think of tennis, guys, this is a sport that, in my opinion, takes the most skill out of any sport in the world because you're by yourself, all the pressure is on you to deliver, and you have to have a little bit of everything in your arsenal in order to obtain victory in tennis. That being, obviously, guys, you got to be in incredible shape as an athlete. You have to have very good precision and aim. You have to your hand-eye coordination has to be on point, and you got to be quick. And so with StarCraft, if you think about it, this is a game where you're doing many things at once, and it really takes a lot out of you throughout the course of a series in the esports realm. But with that being said, I would like them to put more emphasis on team-based StarCraft over the 1v1. Now, I think 1v1 is great. It definitely should not go away. But I believe in order to see the continued growth of StarCraft as a franchise, we're going to need to see them evolve the StarCraft esports scene a little bit. And one of those being more emphasis on team StarCraft. And so when you look at all the the landscape as a whole, guys, when it comes to esports as a whole, we can see that the most popular games out there are all team-based games. And it's just because spectators like watching team-based games more so than they would the 1v1 games. Now, there are other games out there, guys, like Madden and games of that nature that, of course, still draw an audience, and they're 1v1. But I think with StarCraft, having 1v1 is, still a core of the esports scene for them. They should continue that, but also start adding the team base because I think it could take us to the next level. Coming in at number 4, guys, I believe one of the biggest things that we've seen as of, today and just with the recent success of Call of Duty Warzone and Fortnite, Apex Legends, what do all these games have in common? They're free to play. And so with number 4, guys, I think StarCraft 3 should be free to play. It's going to build the fan base in a major way. A lot of people at least, are going to at least try the game out. And so I think that's really important. When StarCraft 2 went free to play, it actually helped the fan base and helped build this thing, and kind of go to that next level. But I think if you started with StarCraft 3 as a free to play game, and have more customizations and things of that nature, to help the game. You can buy skins, you can buy things in game, and it's justifiable because it's a free to play game, right? And so having the battle pass and things of that nature to go towards all those profits are going towards, whether it's the esports scene or it goes back to the developer. I think StarCraft 3 is primed to be a free to play game, and it could really help globally in a major way this game continue to grow. And then rounding it out, guys, coming in at number 5, I believe one of the big things also in gaming, I've always talked about, package deals, having the campaign, having multiplayer modes as well as co-op modes. And so number 5, I'd love to see some extra co-op missions that you can play with your friends. And I would also like to see, as far as, kind of having those side missions or having different ways you can connect with the franchise. One of those being, I would love to see at least some initial concepts for a first-person shooter StarCraft game mode. I think that would be something very interesting that they could test out to see what people think of a first-person shooter StarCraft game. Because if you think about it, guys, we've had 2 first-person shooter StarCraft games get canceled in the past. I think adding a game mode that is a first-person shooter within the StarCraft universe, whether you can play with your friends or by yourself, I think they would at least get an idea as to what people think about the first-person shooter StarCraft game, and then maybe moving forward they can do a completely new first-person shooter StarCraft game, which we all know that shooters are very popular right now, and I think in the StarCraft universe it could be something kind of like Halo, or it could be, something even similar to like even Call of Duty and Battlefield. Who knows? But I think they could at least kind of add that into the mix into StarCraft 3. So those are the 5 things, guys, that I want to see in StarCraft 3. I mean, there's a lot of other things, guys, that we could talk about ad nauseum about StarCraft 3 that we want to see in the next installment of this series, but I'd love to hear from all of you. What do you guys want to see in StarCraft 3? Are your top 5 things similar to mine, or are they different? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more StarCraft 3 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.